He stopped. The light flickered. The crowd's scream fell silent. Elvis closed his eyes, held the fan's hand, and something inside him broke. For a second, the king left the stage and became a boy from Tupelo again, searching for his mother. What was behind that tear that went viral across the internet? What did that fan say that touched Elvis so deeply? Today, we're going to uncover this moment that many claim was real, but few can prove. Picture the grandeur of a stage and the intimacy of a memory. Let's discover together how this emotional story happened for both of them, and it will surely move us too. Stay with me. They say that behind every idol, there's a story no one sees. And in the case of Elvis Presley, that story begins long before the glow of the stage lights and the screaming crowds. It begins in a small wooden house in Tupelo, Mississippi, where a blue-eyed, soft-spoken boy lived under the unconditional love of his mother, Gladys "Love" Presley. It was a modest home, but full of warmth. Gladys and Elvis were practically inseparable. She called him "my baby," and he saw her as his safe haven. The bond between them was almost spiritual in its intensity, a connection that would shape everything Elvis would become, his way of loving, singing, and feeling the world. Elvis grew up surrounded by simple values. His father, Vernon Presley, did what he could to support the family, but the one who truly filled the boy's heart was his mother. She was everything. When he started singing in church, Gladys was there, proud and tear-eyed. When he bought his first guitar, it was she who encouraged him. She saw something special in that boy, a light he didn't even understand yet. And it was that constant presence, that unshakable motherly love that made Elvis grow up with a childlike sense of loyalty and affection toward Gladys, even after success took him far from Tupelo. Years later, when fame hit like a storm, with magazine covers, movies, and sold-out shows, Elvis was still, deep down, the same boy who called his mother every day. Amid the chaos and pressure, she was his emotional anchor. But fate would be cruel. In 1958, while Elvis was serving in the army in Germany, Gladys fell gravely ill. He rushed back to see her, but she passed away only a few days later. That loss destroyed him. Close friends said Elvis was never the same again. He was inconsolable. He cried for hours, locked in his room. He said a part of him had died with her. It was the first great wound in the life of a man the world would one day call immortal. From that moment on, something changed. Elvis began to carry a quiet longing, a void that neither fame, nor money, nor the love of his fans could ever fill. And it was that pain, discreet, deep, constant, that followed him for the rest of his life. Behind the curtains, many said that sometimes, before going on stage, he would look up at the sky and whisper his mother's name, as if asking for strength. During recordings, tours, and even private talks with close friends, Gladys was always there. It wasn't just a memory, it was almost a living presence inside him. The most attentive fans noticed that, in certain moments of his performances, especially when he sang emotional songs, Elvis's eyes would fill with tears. It was the boy from Tupelo reappearing for a moment. The man the world saw as the king of rock was still the son who missed his mother. He never truly detached himself from that simple childhood or from the pure love that shaped him. And it's exactly that bond that makes it easier to understand why, years later, a simple phrase from a fan could break his defenses and make him cry in front of thousands of people. That memory wasn't just a distant thought. It was a still open wound, an echo of the past reminding him who he truly was. To understand the beginning of this story is to understand the essence of Elvis. He wasn't just an artist. He was a man carrying the memories of a time when everything was simpler and more sincere, a time when the sound of his mother's voice was enough to calm any pain. And perhaps that's why, amid the success and loneliness of fame, he spent his life trying to find, in the applause of the crowd, the same love he once saw in Gladys's eyes. Because deep down, Elvis Presley never stopped being that little boy who just wanted to go home. And what do you think? Was it this love between mother and son that kept Elvis so human, even after all the fame? Leave your thoughts in the comments and let's talk about it. As the years passed, time turned Elvis Presley into an almost mythical figure. The boy from Tupelo who sang hymns in church had become the most famous man on the planet. But behind the flawless image, the glittering jumpsuits, and the charming smile, there was someone in constant conflict between what the public saw and what he truly felt. The stage was both the place where he felt most alive and most vulnerable. And it was exactly in that space, between glory and solitude, that one of the most talked about moments among his fans was born. The moment when Elvis cried on stage after being approached by a fan who said she had known him since childhood and had also known his mother. The story spread from fan to fan, passed down through generations. In each retelling, small details changed, but the feeling remained the same. The episode, according to several versions, happened during one of his final shows in the 1970s, when Elvis was already showing signs of physical and emotional exhaustion. Amid the bright lights and the roar of the audience, he moved closer to the crowd, as he often did. A woman reached out her hand, and when Elvis took it, she looked at him with tears in her eyes and said something that made him freeze for a moment. "I knew your mother, Elvis. I've known you since you were little." It was the kind of phrase that tore through the veil separating the global superstar from the sensitive boy from Tupelo. His expression changed, his smile froze, his gaze drifted away, as if he had been transported back in time. The audience noticed, the band did too. For a few seconds, the King of Rock was no longer a legend on stage. He was just a son, remembering the woman who had given him everything he was. The moment may have lasted only an instant, but it was enough to move everyone who witnessed it. From that point on, different versions of what actually happened began to appear. Some fans claim he cried discreetly, wiping his face with the white scarf he always carried. Others say he stepped away from the microphone, trying to regain his composure. Some even swear they heard him whisper, "Mama," before returning to the song. And although no official recording fully proves the scene, all accounts agree on one thing: Elvis was deeply moved, and the audience felt it too. But what gives this story its power isn't just the uncertainty of what was said, it's what it represents. In that moment, Elvis wasn't the unshakable myth of the Las Vegas stages. He was a man who, in front of thousands, was reminded of his purest and most painful past. The fan, perhaps unknowingly, had touched a memory buried deep within his soul. It was as if, amid all the noise, someone had finally spoken the language of the human Elvis, not the idol. What's curious is that this kind of emotion wasn't rare during his final performances. Elvis had always been an artist who gave his all, but in his last years, that devotion became more vulnerable. There was a mix of nostalgia, fatigue, and introspection in his voice. When he sang songs like "My Boy" or "How Great Thou Art," it was common to see him close his eyes and let his emotions flow. The audience could feel it. The notes seemed slower, his eyes deeper, and his voice, though still powerful, carried a weight it hadn't before. The story of the fan who moved him fits perfectly into that context. It was a time when Elvis, even surrounded by fame and luxury, seemed to be searching for reconnection with his roots. The symbolic reunion with someone who had known him before success served as a reminder of who he truly was. And perhaps that's why the episode became so powerful among fans. It reveals the most human side of an artist who, for many, seemed untouchable. And you, do you believe this moment really happened, or do you think it became a legend born from the love of fans? Tell us in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts. The impact of this story is so lasting because it goes beyond the event itself. It touches something universal, the longing for a time when everything was simpler, the memory of who we were before life changed us. In Elvis's case, the poor boy from Mississippi who became the greatest star in the world, that contrast was immense. And it's precisely that distance between past and present that makes this supposed encounter with the fan so symbolic. It was as if, for a few seconds, fame disappeared, and only Gladys's son remained, the same boy who once believed that singing was the purest way to express love. Even without definitive proof, the scene has become part of the collective imagination of fans, a fragment of emotion that sums up everything Elvis represented: talent, vulnerability, and humanity. And perhaps the power of this story lies in the fact that we don't need to know whether it happened exactly as told. What matters is that it reveals a man who, despite conquering the world, never escaped the memories of where he came from. And that's why, even today, every time this story resurfaces online or in fan conversations, it continues to move people. Because the king may have left the stage long ago, but the boy from Tupelo still lives on in the memories he awakened. What makes this story so powerful isn't just the uncertainty of what truly happened, but what it reveals about the essence of Elvis Presley. The tears on stage, brought on by a memory of childhood and the mention of his mother, go far beyond a simple emotional moment. It's a window into who he really was, a man torn between the myth the world worshipped and the loneliness that followed him from his first day of fame. That instant, when the star stripped away all grandeur to show his humanity, may be the purest reflection of who Elvis was. Someone who never stopped searching for the love and safety he lost with his mother. Throughout his career, Elvis lived surrounded by people, yet rarely felt understood. His fame was overwhelming, and while it placed him atop the world, it distanced him from the simple, sincere relationships he valued most. He had friends, musicians, fans, but few ever reached the real Elvis. It was as if two men coexisted in one body: the king of rock, a symbol of a generation, and the boy from Tupelo who still remembered the smell of that humble house and the sound of his mother's voice calling his name. That inner conflict followed him to the end. On stage, Elvis turned pain into art. Every note, every gesture, every glance carried something deeply personal. It was as if he was exercising his own longing through his music. In songs like Always on My Mind, My Boy, or Unchained Melody, you can feel the total surrender of a man who sang what he felt, not what people wanted to hear. That's why moments like the alleged tears on stage sound so real to those who know him. They aren't isolated scenes, they are the summary of a lifetime of repressed emotion and memories that never stopped hurting. The fact that the fan mentioned his mother isn't just a small detail. For Elvis, Gladys was the symbol of unconditional love, purity, and origin. Whenever someone mentioned her, he seemed to return to his beginning. It was as if all the fame and fortune in the world couldn't fill the emptiness her loss left behind. So when he heard those words, "I knew your mother," the world around him must have disappeared for a moment. There was no longer an artist before thousands. There was only a son facing the most important memory of his life. And that's why a simple gesture from an unknown fan could pierce through all the glamour and touch the heart of the man behind the myth. This episode, real or legendary, carries a profound message about the power of memory. It shows how the past never truly disappears, even for those who seem to have everything. Elvis lived surrounded by luxury, fame, and applause, but what truly drove him was something much more intimate: the search for belonging, for rediscovering the love and peace he had felt as a boy in Tupelo. Deep down, his entire journey could be seen as an attempt to find that feeling of home, of comfort, that life had taken too soon. And that humanity is what makes him eternal. The public is moved by stories like this because they reveal a side the cameras couldn't capture. The sensitive, spiritual, generous man who carried a world of emotions inside him. Elvis was contradictory, strong and fragile at the same time. His strength came from total devotion to music, his fragility from longing and the exhaustion of living for others.
The tears on stage represent exactly that contrast. They were the artist's soul overflowing, unable to contain everything he felt. Over time, stories like this take on new meaning. More than a single event, they become mirrors of what fans see in him: authenticity, emotion, and humanity. Elvis may have been an icon, but he never stopped being a regular person with his own pain and memories. And perhaps that's what makes him immortal. Because as long as there are people capable of being moved by his voice, his story will live on. The tear that fell on that stage, real or not, became a symbol of everything he stood for. A man who loved deeply and never feared to feel. In the end, what this story teaches us is that Elvis wasn't just the king of rock. He was the king of emotion, of genuine feeling, of total surrender. His music continues to touch hearts because it was born from truth. And the truth is that behind the myth, there was a man who missed home, his mother, and a time when everything made sense. The tears on stage then weren't just an isolated moment. They were the reunion between the artist and the boy he always carried inside. And that's why, even after all these years, the world is still moved by him. Because Elvis Presley never needed words to show who he was. One look, one note, or one tear was enough for everyone to understand that the king was in fact human.
And that's how we come to the end of this story. One that's more than just a tale. It's a living memory of the man behind the myth. The Elvis the world knew as the King of Rock was, above all, a human being full of love, longing, and truth. And maybe that's exactly what makes him eternal. If this story moved you, if it somehow reminded you why you've always admired Elvis, then this is the moment to keep that flame alive. Subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any videos about the life, art, and unforgettable moments of the King. Leave your like. It helps a lot to spread this story to other fans who, like you, still feel that Elvis lives on in every note, every smile, and every memory. And now I want to hear from you. What's the most touching Elvis moment for you? Tell us in the comments. Share your memories, your favorite song, or the performance that moved you the most. And if you know someone who loves Elvis as much as you do, share this video with them. Let's make sure this story continues to be told, with care, with respect, and with the same emotion the King poured into every song. Because here on this channel, the legacy of Elvis Presley never dies. It just changes stages, from his heart to ours.